I made my family disappear.
Welcome to Into the Vault, the movie review series where I dive into the good, the bad, and the bizarre corners of the Disney film empire, one randomly chosen title at a time. And for our first pick, the randomizer dropped a holiday bombshell on us. Yes, we are watching Home Alone. That Home Alone. The film that made a forgotten child into cinematic gold and gave every 90s kid a totally unrealistic sense of how easy it would be to defeat two grown burglars with toy cars and blowtorches. Originally released on November 16th, 1990, Home Alone was directed by Chris Columbus and produced by Hughes Entertainment under 20th Century Fox. Thanks to Disney's 2019 acquisition of Fox, Home Alone now technically lives in the Disney Vault. So, yes, it is fair game for this channel. And this movie wasn't just a hit, it was a phenomenon. Number one at the box office for 12 straight weeks, third highest grossing film of all time when it came out, second highest grossing film of 1990 behind the film Ghost, held the highest grossing Christmas movie record until Dr. Seuss's The Grinch dethroned it in 2018. Oh, and awards? It didn't do too bad there either. Oscar noms for Best Score and Best Original Song, Golden Globe nods for Best Comedy and Best Actor. Good job, Macaulay Culkin. A Grammy nomination for that legendary John Williams score, and of course, Favorite Movie at the Kids' Choice Award. So, what is this movie actually about? If you've somehow never seen it or need a refresher, Home Alone follows Kevin McCallister, an 8-year-old left behind when his enormous family accidentally flies to Paris without him. While Kevin lives it up solo, two local burglars, the Wet Bandits, set their sights on his house. What follows is part holiday heart, part cartoon violence, and full blown suburban warfare. So let's dive in. We open with that iconic John Williams score, and I get why it got the Oscar nod. It hits immediately. To think that they almost didn't get John Williams. Chris Columbus wanted him, but never thought they would be able to get him. After the original composer backed out and John Williams saw an early cut of the film, he agreed to do it. The first thing I notice is that the McAllister's house is massive. Like, how did they afford this with Chicago real estate prices? What did Kevin's parents do for a living? That place is huge and packed with 15 people getting ready for an international trip. Inside the chaos, we meet a police officer at the front door, who no one seems to acknowledge, which is wild. If a cop were in my entryway, I'd at least ask a few questions. Spoiler, he's not really a cop. Kevin notices a shiny gold tooth that will come back into play later. Alright, speaking of Kevin, let's meet our main members of the family. Of course, as I just said, you have Kevin McCallister, played by Macaulay Culkin. He is sarcastic, dramatic, and the overlooked youngest child of the McCallister family. Then you have Kate McCallister, played by Catherine O'Hara. She is a stressed out mom, barely holding it together while her family is completely unprepared for this international trip. And then you have Peter McCallister, played by John Hurd, a stressed out dad mostly just floating through the chaos. Kevin complains that Uncle Frank won't let him watch a movie, but the big kids can. Kate tells him to get off the bed, and he fires back with, "Hang up the phone and make me, why don't you?" I could not imagine telling that to my parents. Then Peter comes in complaining he forgot the voltage adapter. Kevin's aunt is also asking for one. Did nobody prepare for this trip before the night before? Everyone's yelling at Kevin to pack his own suitcase, like an 8-year-old can pack for an international trip. Then we get a quick and chaotic introduction to the McCallister clan. Here's a rundown of the main players sleeping in this house tonight. There's Buzz, Kevin's typical 90s bullying older brother, Megan, Lenny, and Jeff, Kevin's older siblings who are mostly there to insult him and roll their eyes, Uncle Frank, who is the worst. He's loud, cheap, and rude. Aunt Leslie, why does she choose to put up with Uncle Frank? And Fuller, Kevin's cousin, who is actually played by Kieran Culkin, who just won an Oscar in 2025 for Succession. Who would have thought that Kieran Culkin, who made his film debut here as bedwetting Fuller, would be the only one of the Culkins to win an Oscar? Then there are even more cousins and two additional kids from the family in Paris. 15 people, one house. Couldn't Uncle Frank just have stayed in a hotel the night before? Later that night, Kevin's siblings roast him for asking for help. Lenny hits him with the line, "You're what the French call les incompetents." And honestly, that line has stuck in my brain for years. I probably have even said this to my own brother once or twice. Then we meet Buzz in all his 90s glory, talking about French girls' armpits and scaring Kevin with stories about Old Man Marley, who allegedly murdered his family in 1958. Old Man Marley is observed salting the sidewalk because no one else in the neighborhood has the courtesy to do so. Then the pizza guy arrives and hits the McCallister's lawn statue. This guy needs to learn how to park. Kevin gets no pizza because Buzz ate the cheese one on purpose, which is the only kind of pizza Kevin likes because, he has the palate of an 8-year-old. Buzz pretends to puke it up for Kevin and chaos erupts. Milk spills, passports get soaked, and Uncle Frank hits Kevin with the infamous line,
And olives and
Look what you
onions
did, you little jerk!
"Why did we invite him to this on this trip again?" Kevin gets sent to the attic and says he wishes his family would disappear. Along comes the storm, the power outage, and the oversleeping due to alarm clocks not going off because it's the 90s and smartphones didn't exist yet. The airport vans arrive, and in the head count mix up, the neighbor kid gets mistaken for Kevin. The line worker also tries to explain to Kate that electricity is restored, but it will take a few days for phone lines. Kate doesn't care because she has a plane to catch. Somehow, no one notices their youngest child is gone until they're mid flight. Around this time, we also learn that Peter's brother in Paris is the one paying for them all to go on this trip. I looked up how much this would have cost in 1990, and it would have cost around $32,000 for the 4 first class seats and 11 coach seats, and we thought Kate and Peter were the rich ones. Of course, Uncle Frank is cheap as always. He even refused to pay the pizza guy the night before. Back in Chicago, Kevin wakes up to a suspiciously quiet house. No siblings yelling, no Uncle Frank being, well, Uncle Frank, and just total silence. He does what any 8-year-old would do in this scenario: jumps on the bed, eats chips, rifles through Buzz's stuff, finds a Playboy, and uses Buzz's BB gun to shoot down some action figures. And then, of course, we meet the fictional movie inside the movie, Angels with Filthy Souls, with the line that has burned itself into pop culture history.
Keep the change, you filthy animal.
Meanwhile, on the plane, Kate suddenly realizes something is off. Did she forget to close the garage? Turn off the coffee pot? Nope. Cue the iconic line.
Kevin!
Frank tries to console her by comparing it to forgetting his reading glasses. Not helping Frank. Let's also mention that Frank was stealing the silverware from the plane and telling Leslie to hide it in her purse because it's real crystal. Now we shift over to the Wet Bandits, Harry and Marv, played to perfection by Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern. We learn that Harry, disguised as a police officer from earlier, was scoping out the neighborhood. He knew exactly when the Christmas lights turn on for each house. Marv, meanwhile, has adopted the worst calling card ever, flooding houses by plugging up sinks and leaving the faucet running. He says that is why they will be known as the Wet Bandits. It will be their calling card. The over the top characterization from Harry and Marv is great. In an interview, Joe Pesci revealed that both him and Daniel Stern gave these over the top moments because neither of them thought the film was going to go anywhere. Back at home, Kevin hears them walking outside his home. He runs to the basement but realizes he is afraid of their furnace, which his imagination sees as a monster. He smartly flips on every light in the house and hides under the bed, as he hears that they are going to be coming back the next night. Back in Paris, the McCallisters try to call every neighbor and friend in the phone book. Weren't the phone lines supposed to be down? The Chicago police finally send someone to check the house, but Kevin doesn't answer the door because, again, he thinks the cops are sketchy now. Fair. Later, he decides that he cannot live his life afraid and runs outside yelling, "I'm not afraid anymore!" until he runs into Old Man Marley and books it back inside like he saw a ghost. Kate stays behind on standby, desperate to get home, while the rest of the family just waits in Paris because the earliest flight wasn't until the next day. Kevin starts taking care of himself, doing laundry, brushing his teeth, and of course, the iconic moment that will live in cinematic history.
Shit.
He climbs Buzz's shelves to get some cash and promptly knocks the whole thing over, including the tarantula that will definitely return later. He heads to the store to buy a toothbrush, which he asks if it is ADA approved, and runs into Old Man Marley. Kevin panics and runs out of the store without paying, slipping and sliding across an ice rink like a cartoon character. He walks through the street contemplating his new life as a thief as Marv nearly hits Kevin with their van. Kevin spots Harry's gold tooth and he realizes this is the same guy who was the police officer earlier. He hides in a nativity scene and outsmarts them. Back home, Kevin stages a fake holiday party with mannequins, cardboard cutouts, and a Michael Jordan standee on a train track. I actually owned that exact Michael Jordan standee as a child in the 90s. It had to be bent to stand up in my room, which told me I would never be able to invite Michael Jordan to visit me. The Wet Bandits fall for it, confused by the movement, the music, and the shadows. What I'm confused about is how Kevin came into possession of all these mannequins. Meanwhile, Kevin orders pizza and uses angels with filthy souls to make sure the pizza guy isn't suspicious of a kid being left home alone. He also knocked the statue down again. We probably should just revoke his license. While Harry and Marv are burglarizing another house, they hear the answering machine pick up, with Peter explaining to the neighbors that Kevin is home alone and they need someone to check on him. That is when the Wet Bandits realize no one is home with Kevin. I thought the phone lines were supposed to be down until after Christmas due to the storm. I don't have many complaints about this movie, but some continuity would be nice. Kevin heads back to the store like a little adult, buying laundry detergent, microwave meals, some army men for the kids, milk, and even pulling out a coupon for some orange juice. While doing some laundry, he even tells the furnace to shut up. That is sure showing some character growth. At the same time, Marv tries sneaking in through the doggy door, but Kevin fakes gunfire again using Angels with Filthy Souls and firecrackers. Kate meets Gus Polinski, played by John Candy, the polka king of the Midwest, who offers her a ride back to Chicago with his band, the Kenosha Kickers. Meanwhile, Kevin sees a family happily decorating for Christmas and realizes, yeah, he kind of misses his own. He visits Santa in a parking lot and asks for his family back, and Santa says he will see what he can do and drops some Tic Tacs into Kevin's hand. Thanks? Kevin goes to church and he finally talks to Old Man Marley. Turns out Marley isn't a murderer, just a grandfather estranged from his son. The two share a real moment about fear, forgiveness, and reaching out to family. Kevin talks about missing his family and he feels bad. Marley opens up about how he is afraid that his son won't talk to him. Kevin mentions that how can Marley be afraid since he is old? Marley says, you can be too old for a lot of things. You can never be too old to be afraid. He tells Kevin he needs to get home now, and Kevin leaves the church. Kevin runs home and draws up a full-on war plan. Honestly, this kid might have a future in the CIA. That night, the Wet Bandits return and walk into the most cartoonishly brutal gauntlet ever. You have a BB gun to the groin and the head, falling down icy stairs multiple times, a blowtorch to the scalp, stepping barefoot on ornaments, paint cans to the face, feathers, tar, nails, irons, basically a Saw movie made by an 8-year-old. This is also where one of my favorite lines happens after all the chaos.
Harry?
Why the hell did you take your shoes off?
Why the hell you dressed like a chicken?
After they run after Kevin and get the paint cans to the face, the famous spider scene happens. According to Chris Columbus, Daniel Stern said he would only do the scene if they did it in one take. He also wasn't allowed to scream because they didn't want to startle the tarantula and have it bite him. The scream sound effect was added after the fact. At one point, Harry and Marv are looking for Kevin, and Marv says, maybe he committed suicide. Wait, what? That line did not age well. Kevin escapes to his treehouse using a zipline, then cuts the rope as the burglars try to follow him and they fly into the side of the house. Eventually, they catch him, hang him up on a coat hook, and prepare to hurt him the same way he hurt them. You can see the real fear in Kevin's eyes because Joe Pesci deliberately avoided Macaulay Culkin so he would actually be afraid of him when doing these scenes. While they have Kevin strung up on the hook, Old Man Marley appears with a shovel and knocks them both out cold. Christmas Eve, Kevin leaves milk and cookies out for Santa. Kate makes it home just in time for Christmas morning thanks to Gus and the Polka Boys. She apologizes, Kevin forgives her, and just as they embrace, the rest of the family shows up. They got on the flight that Kate didn't want to wait for. I guess she should have just waited. They got home at the exact same time. At least they left Uncle Frank in Paris. Kevin looks out the window and sees Marley reuniting with his son, truly heartwarming as he smiles and waves at him. And just when it seems like all is well, Buzz yells from upstairs,
Kevin! What did you do to my room?
Home Alone is an amazing movie. Let's talk about what Home Alone gets so right. The cast truly carries this film, especially Macaulay Culkin. He walks the line between precocious and genuinely charming, and it's easy to see why he became an overnight star. His comedic timing, physical acting, and that mix of sass and innocence makes Kevin McCallister feel like a real kid, not just a movie character. Catherine O'Hara gives the film its emotional core as Kate, the frantic mom desperate to get back home. Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern, absolute gold. Their chemistry as the Wet Bandits is pure slapstick magic. Stern's exaggerated screams and Pesci's frustrated mumbling elevate every trap scene into something timelessly funny. Even the supporting characters like Buzz and Uncle Frank hit their marks. Annoying in exactly the way they're supposed to be, even though Uncle Frank still sucks. That said, there are moments where the tone whiplashes just a bit. The family's treatment of Kevin in the early scenes is so over the top that it borders on cruel instead of comedic. Seriously, look what you did, you little jerk. That line lives rent free in my head and not in a good way. Also, the sheer convenience of how everything works out, from flight arrangements to burglary schedules, definitely demands some suspension of disbelief. But hey, it's a Christmas movie. Logic takes a backseat to sentiment and slapstick, and for the most part, it works. The performances make up for the plot holes, and the heart behind the comedy keeps it grounded just enough. Thanks for watching this episode of Into the Vault. If you enjoyed it, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and stick around because next time, the randomizer chose The Luck of the Irish for my next movie. Yep, the 2001 Disney Channel original movie where basketball meets Irish folklore. A teen discovers he's part leprechaun, and suddenly everything's about heritage, high stakes tournaments, and guarding that lucky gold coin. From Christmas to Clovers, we're heading straight into St. Patrick's Day madness. Let's open the vault.